Vikings have a huge test this Thursday night, Thanksgiving, primetime football, Sunday Night Football. We'll break down this game against the New England Patriots right after this. There's no better way to put behind the debacle that was the 40-3 ass kicking from the Dallas Cowboys, other than getting right back on the field 4 days later. Thursday Night Football, Thanksgiving night, prime time, Sunday night, the whole deal. In a game that really, for the mindset of the team and the mindset of the fan base, has become a must-win ordeal. And you look at the Patriots for what they are. They're 6-5, I believe, or are they 7-5 now?
6-5.
6-4. They're
6-4. That's what I was gonna say.
So they're not the Patriots of old, but this is still a Bill Belichick coached football team. They got players on both sides of the ball. Coming off a big win, no offensive touchdown scored, but the walk-off punt return against the Jets. And this, I mean, above anything else, this defense, and as we saw last week, the defense was a lot, our offense against the other team's defense was a lot of our problem. This is another absolute elite defense in the NFL. Bill Belichick is a genius. He's best known for taking away what the other team does well. And we showed a lot of weaknesses against the Cowboys. And I think Bill Belichick, he's going to be looking to exploit a lot of those. So yeah, it's a good test. And I know the players are excited to get back on the field and give it a go. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, after the game against the Cowboys, obviously a terrible loss, but I do think as just like the Minnesota Vikings, the team, all their players, and everywhere in that organization, the fans, us, we need to move on from that. It is time to move on, and we are going up against the Patriots next, and I do think we're going to come in here, and I do think we're going to get the win and kind of get right back on course. But like you said, it's not going to be an easy task at all, especially Bill Belichick watching how Michael Parsons did our offensive line last week. So I can only imagine Bill Belichick's going to just bring the pressure, if not even harder than Cowboys did. So, I mean, we're going to get into our key matchups in a little bit here, but if I'm Kevin O'Connell, I'm making sure our offensive line is ready to go, and it should be the number one priority going into this game.
And that is a nice little segue into our key matchups.
But before we do that, I want to thank everybody who's watching to hit subscribe and hit the bell to get more notifications for more of our videos. Not this week, but moving forward, we're going to be doing a little giveaway. I got a bunch of Justin Jefferson rookie cards here. Nothing too crazy, but hey, man, I mean, these do hold some values there. Justin Jefferson, the best wide receiver in the league, and rookie cards. So we're going to do that moving forward here. So hit subscribe to continue hearing more and knowing more about how that's going to work moving forward. But yeah, anyways, let's go right into our key matchups.
You talked about the pass rush. You talked about Kevin O'Connell. That is our first matchup. Kevin O'Connell versus Matthew Judon. Now, I know this isn't like a player-to-player thing, and you could have talked about the scheming and coaching between Belichick and Kevin O'Connell, but I want to start here. What Kevin O'Connell in the game plan did last week against Micah Parsons, clearly not enough, right? Micah Parsons obliterated our offensive line, and one of the people ahead in total sacks for the year is this man right here, Matthew Judon, 13.5. One of the, if not the best pass rusher in the league, absolutely elite on a really solid defense, really well coached. So Kevin O'Connell has to do something, especially with Christian Darrisaw not playing. Blake Brandel, he played well against the Bills, not so much against the Cowboys. So that is exactly what Bill Belichick's going to do. He's going to exploit the left tackle. He's going to move Matthew Judon all over the place, get him over the interior who struggled as well. So Kevin O'Connell's got to come through the game plan. I don't know if it's, CJ Ham's got to be back there blocking or what you're going to have to do. I know Chris Thomason tweeted today that he asked Delvin Cook what he got to do to help Kirk Cousins, and he said block. And JJ was saying they got to get the ball out quicker. So the guys know, and now it's up to Kevin O'Connell to scheme correctly and figure out how to stop this animal that is Matthew Judon. This is going to be And that's what I said. Of a quick turnaround, yes, it's great. You get the taste out of your mouth. You get to go back and play more football, but it doesn't get any easier. It gets just as difficult, and it's
Yeah.
I don't know. It's going to be a good. It's going to be a good test for the offense. That's for sure.
Right. Luckily, we're up against an offense that isn't as we'll dive into that a little bit, but we're against an offense that isn't like Dallas Cowboys, or especially not like the Bills. But yeah, I mean, it's all starting with this offensive line and protecting Kirk Cousins, which ultimately, obviously, is protecting Kirk Cousins, because even last week, Dalvin Cook seemed to have some room to run. And again, you're against a team in the Patriots whose run defense is a 58.4 according to PFF, which is their lowest grade. But in a running back like Dalvin Cook, who did play well against Dallas, and a player that I felt like we should have used more, especially earlier on. Well, obviously, specifically earlier on in another game against the Patriots. It's another game that I think Dalvin Cook could be the guy who steps up. And I do also want to see Kevin O'Connell use him more, even though, I was sick and tired kind of Mike Zimmer only using the run game and not the pass game enough. But at the end of the day, if you're a good coach, you want to use the players that match up against your opponents the best. And I do think, just like last week, I think it is Dalvin Cook in this situation. So I do want to see more from that. And, it does open up, the more you use that, the less you have to worry about pass rush and things like that, and opens up the whole game for the offense in general. So I do hope we see a little bit more running this game. But more than importantly, nothing matters if we can't protect Kirk Cousins or open up lanes. So it's really going to come down to Kevin O'Connell coming up with something with Christian Darris out and holding that defensive line, especially Judon,
Right.
from getting to Kirk Cousins.
And that's the thing. You got to mix it up. You got to do some quick passes. You got to do something to mix it up a little bit and keep the defense on their toes. We had a few too many just straight dropbacks last week where they can just pin their ears back and go. I don't, the screen game, it works for some teams. I don't think Kirk Cousins has a quick enough release for the screen game to work. So he's got to try something different there. So
something. I don't know. We keep
I
trying to
almost
tight
feel like
end
he takes
screen
too much
thing,
of
and
a
it's not
full
working.
wind. I think he takes too much of a full wind up when he tries to throw those screens.
Yeah.
That's just what I noticed. It seems a little slow and robotic, but yeah. Kevin O'Connell, obviously the leadership thing is A+ tier. I love his leadership, and we got to remember he's still a young play caller.
And he's at 8-2. And he's 8-2.
Right. He hasn't called that many games offensively. So,
right.
And especially now with this team. So they're still learning, but he's got to do better than last week. Something has to change. You got to sell the farm to freaking to hold off this pass rush, because Judon's fantastic.
And it's a really good this is by far the toughest stretch of defenses that we'll face all year in the Patriots, Dallas, and Buffalo.
And Washington before that.
And Washington before that. And now, who do we have next? We have someone else. Jets.
The Jets.
The Jets defense has stepped up this year.
Yeah.
So, this is a definitely a learning situation for Kevin O'Connell against these top tier defenses. And we're, against Buffalo, it wasn't even perfect against Buffalo, but we came out with the W there. And then Dallas obviously destroyed offensive line. So hopefully, this is a good learning experience, and hopefully he can go into this game and he does. And we do see better protection for Kirk Cousins, however which way we figure that out, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Moving on to our next matchup, a little bit of our defense versus their offense. Our linebackers versus Ramondre Stevenson. Now, obviously, we were absolutely torched by the running backs of the Dallas Cowboys last week. Jordan Hicks got left on an island in defense against Pollard on his 2 long touchdown catches. Let's see what they don't use Ramondre Stevenson a ton, but overall he still has 41 receptions, 283 yards, and a receiving touchdown. So,
yeah.
And just the run game as well. So far this season, he's ran 144 carries, 644 yards, and 4 touchdowns as well. So the guy's really good. And he kind of go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, we have to remember he didn't start, or he wasn't playing like a ton earlier on in the season. So it's probably from the past like 6 weeks that you see in those stats, but he's definitely the pass catcher in that game, and Pollard destroyed us in the pass catching. And I've said it on many of our podcasts, including all of them from last week, that I'm always concerned about that pass catching running back, because for some reason it doesn't matter which coach we have, we let those players run all over us or catch all over us or whatever. And obviously we saw it in a very talented version of that in Pollard last week, and very fast, which Stevenson I don't think is as fast as Pollard. So hopefully, we don't have to worry about it as much. I don't think he's at Pollard's level yet. So hopefully, but
right. But also on this
important
team, you have he's not Zeke, but you have the Zeke type with Damian Harris in 8 games, 79 attempts, 367 yards, and 2 touchdowns. You have that other guy too, the bruiser guy that like to run up the middle. So
right.
This team has a lot of everything that the Cowboys have. Obviously, like you said, not nearly at the same level, but
not on offense.
No, not on offense for sure. But our defense, there's still some weapons there that are going to test the defense. So it's this is the matchup I'm watching just because of how poorly we played against the run last week. Gave up a lot of yards on the ground and to running backs through the air. So this is going to be a key matchup here. And these two, Hicks has been, let's just be honest. Hicks and Kendricks they've both been up and down. Kendricks hasn't been the same guy. I know he's still transitioning to a new defense. I get that, but he hasn't been the same player this year either. We got to, you got to admit that when you look at this. So these guys, they're going to be tested this week, and they're going to be tested a lot because I think, again, Bill Belichick sees what happened last week and he knows how to exploit things. So I think he's gonna look to involve Stevenson in the passing game as well.
Yeah, and to dive into our next one, not quite yet, but it's going to be very important to stop the run, I think, in this game, because if there's one weakness in my eyes, who actually have better grades than I would expected, is I think you need to put that ball in Mac Jones' hands. I said this against Jalen Hurts. He obviously was a lot better and grew a lot more than I expected come into year 3 for him, but we need to get the ball in Mac Jones' hands. We need to make him have to throw to his wide receivers that are pretty mediocre, to say the least. And I think that's why Danielle Hunter and Zadarius Smith is our third key matchup. And we need them to get to Mac Jones, create pressure, and which only will help by stopping the run. If we stop the run, Mac Jones has to throw. And if we can get to the quarterback and we can make him, have erratic throws to his wide receivers, I think all of those come together to be to stop this offense for sure.
Yeah, and you're definitely right. In the 7 games Mac Jones has played in, 68% completion, which is pretty solid, but only 1,386 yards, 4 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. So he's played 7 games. He's thrown it, averaging an interception a game, and he's been sacked 21 times. So he's gettable. The Patriots offensive line isn't, what it has been.
Yeah.
I know in the last couple of years it has started declining a little bit with some of these older guys there, but so he's gettable. And yeah, like you mentioned, the weapons he has, his top receivers, Jacoby Myers, 44 receptions, 509 yards, 3 touchdowns. You got Parker with 17 catches, 340 yards and a touchdown. Then Stevenson's their next best guy, then tight end and Aguilar. So you're right. There's not a lot there. So if you can get to Mac Jones, you can force him to make mistakes. And you can't let Mac Jones, though, with these guys, he's got some talent there. You can't let Mac Jones do it. Dak Prescott and every other quarterback has done this year and start out 10 for 11.
90% completion percentage.
You can't let that happen because any team will beat you if you don't get to the quarterback. And I know, obviously, Zadarius, he's had, the injury issues pop up a little bit. We don't have, we should have probably mentioned it back with Stevenson. We don't have Delvin Tomlinson. It really doesn't, from listening to Kevin O'Connell, it doesn't sound like he's going to be ready to go. So it's still a test. Mac Jones, the guy's got talent. He's been there. He's been, he's won a national title. He knows how to play football. He's not, he's not the most physically talented guy in the world, but if you give him time, he's an NFL level quarterback. He'll find a way to beat you. And, kind of mixing that in here with the receivers. Yeah, they might have the best receivers, but outside of Patrick Peterson, the cornerback position is pretty weak right now.
Is there any updates on Evans?
Yeah, Evans, he's still in protocol, so I don't think they're going to rush him back. I would presume he's out. Booth popped up on the injury on the injury report with a knee, with some knee issues. And Kevin O'Connell did kind of say as well. He's like, so we have a Thursday and then a mini bye. He's like, we don't want to rush him, so we'll see. So Duke Shelley might be thrust into action with who knows what, Chris Boyd probably rotating in behind him.
Well, with the small sample size of Shelley, it's looking
for sure,
looking pretty bright.
but that's why it's imperative that you get to Mac Jones. Don't let them run all over you. Don't let them be able to have every play in the playbook like Dallas did. And you got to force some throws, or you got to force Mac Jones into some of those bad decisions. Because they don't have the best receivers, but with young guys, rookies, Duke Shelley, who hasn't played much, like they'll challenge them, you know?
Yeah.
So
And I do think we need to. So obviously, we haven't been doing it yet, but against this wide receiver core, I do think we should press coverage and not. Like you said, we should not allow 90% completion percentage from Mac Jones. If we do that, I think that's the way we can lose. I think is if we just keep allowing, especially against the wide receivers that they
right.
have. I don't think any of them are known as like insanely burners or just not that kind of wide receiver. So I don't see why we have to play 10 yards off them so Mac Jones can march down the field, because he is more than capable of doing that. Pretty much
Right.
any quarterback is, but he is definitely one of those quarterbacks that any kind of game manager quarterback, like he's going to get that completion percentage on you if you allow it. So I do think we need to figure that out. Ed Donatello has to come into this game and decide to play a little bit more press this game, I
Right.
think.
And if you're going to do that, this would be the week to do it. Well, like you said, with those guys that aren't, they're not
Right.
They're not that great. With Jacoby Myers being their top receiver, that guy's a number 2, maybe number 3 on any other team.
Yeah.
Not discounting him. I actually have him in fantasy, and he does pretty solid.
Yeah, but
Like,
he
you
is
can't
like
discount
wide.
him,
I
obviously.
would give him a wide receiver too on a different team.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, with that, why not give it a shot? Why not try a little bit more aggressive and see how your guys handle it? I mean, worst case scenario, you got Harrison Smith behind him, and that's another thing. If somehow Jacoby Myers or whoever ends up on Duke Shelley or Booth if he plays, you got to do something about it. You got to maybe move Harrison Smith or buying him over to help him. But it's just, I don't know. There's a lot of things that this last week we showed on tape that we're not very good at, and we've kind of been waiting for them to pop up with offensive line and inexperience at corner and injuries, and we've been pretty healthy so far this year. Obviously, now we're really starting to turn the other way on that, but it's big against the best coach in the history of the NFL, who's going to exploit your weaknesses. This is what we see. This is the game where we see what this team's made of, what Kevin O'Connell is made of as a coach and play caller, what these players have. This is the biggest game of the year for me in that way, because it is such a short week. How will this team, like we saw what they did with a full week against Philadelphia? I guess it wasn't even really a full week, but they came out and they started off a little sloppy in Detroit, but eventually they figured it out and rattled off 7 straight wins. Will they do that again? Time will tell, but this game is a big telling point in that if they come out, and I said it in our stream the other day, if they play the same way they did this last week, and somehow the Patriots even beat you by more than a one possession, there's going to be a lot of questions. And so far, I was looking at power rankings this week. We haven't fallen that far, but if you don't figure something out, there's going to be a ton of questions about this team leading up to it. So I'm cautiously optimistic about this game. Like you said, I do think we'll win it as well, but I'm going to let you take the floor on this one. Any other final thoughts you have? And if nothing, let's get into some score predictions. But what do you got?
I do think this is going to be a big test. Like you said, this is going to be a big test, and some people want to call it the most important game of the season so far. It just really will show the leadership, I think. Like, obviously, we love KOC's leadership up to this point. There is other types of leaderships, including the guy across the field in Bill Belichick. His leadership is completely different, and obviously he's considered the greatest coach of all time. I do love KOC's way of leading a team, but this is you want to see, is our team going to come back? Are they going to be pissed off and want to come and win this game? Is KOC's version of leadership create that kind of players? Like, all that, I guess you want to say all the, like the accountability, the belief in your players hopefully they take their own accountability and then they go into this game and want to win, instead of that Bill Belichick where you're going to be accountable for your players, I guess you'd probably say. So this will be a big test of that. I'm hoping that this kind of leadership will still light a fire. We lose this game, we will light a fire under our players' ass. We did have Leslie Frazier before, and he was very quiet, and he was more of this KOC type thing. Definitely seemed a little bit way more quiet in this than KOC, but we all wanted to move on from him because his type of coaching just didn't seem to light a fire on our asses. So I think in this game, we will see if KOC's leadership really will light fire under their asses. I mean, we did kind of see it after the Philadelphia game. So I think this short week, especially getting blown out the way we did, it'll be really telling to see how we do against this team. So other than that, that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm hoping, and I think he will. I think our team will come out, and I do think every other time I say like, all right, this is going to be the first game where, we win without a lot of anxiety or, just like the Packers, whatever. Well, I really do think it's going to be this game this week. I think we're bouncing back from that terrible loss. KOC is going to figure out how to stop the pass rush. And I think we're going to win this game. It's a tough defense. It is tough defense, but I think we're going to win this game 24. I think we're going to break our 20 points. 24. Actually, yeah. No, we'll go 21 to 10.
Okay. So with the way both of these teams played last week, no offensive touchdowns scored, short week of prep, that defense and then that offense as well against kind of what we have, I think it's going to be low scoring. I think we will come out hot. I think we'll score on our first possession. I think things will quiet down after that a little bit, both sides. I think our defense will play well against their offense. I think the Vikings will win this game 17-14. I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair, but I do think we pull it off. I think it's going to be one of those games where it's tight until like the fourth quarter, and then we kind of just take control, have a big, long drive, go up by those 3 points, and then just kind of that ice the game away after that. I think we do force Mac Jones into some bad decisions. I think we at least he's shown he'll do it. I think we at least get one interception off him. But yeah, I think 17-14 is a fair score. But again, it's a big game, important game. We want to know what you guys think about this game in the comments. Let us know as well as your score predictions down there. And we'll see you guys at some point this week breaking down this game.
Skol Vikings.